We're live. Welcome to Trill Talk for another week. I'm Aaron Shimmons, your host, and I'm going to get Ricky into the room, and then we can do our Western States debrief and answer the questions that you guys have submitted. There he is. Look at the hair. Look at the fit. Love it. How's it going, dude?
Wait. Ah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Uh,
What's the crack?
the crack is 90, and I'm looking forward to getting into all of the stuff. It's a little bit sad that we're not sitting doing this in Nevada, but it is what it is. Uh, the good times are good because, they're special occasions, and that was a special one. Obviously, I screwed up my flights, otherwise we would have been doing this in Nevada on Monday on our post race debrief. But we're going to do it now. We're a few minutes late. We'll not get into the why. The people can find out in the WhatsApp community what happened there. But
Yeah, look, I don't want to say anything, but it ain't my fault. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm
say
saying.
nothing, dude. Say nothing. Say less. Say less.
Yeah.
First up, let's give a shout out to the sponsors, XMiles, xmiles.co.uk. Get all your nutritional stuff there. We no longer use the code Iron Over Mountains. We're using a discount link. You get it in the bio. We share it in the stories a couple of times a week for everyone. You can also get it in the WhatsApp. Gets you 10% off. Um, and yeah, support them. Also, a new one, Ricky. From this week, we now are the exclusive partners of Tantrums
Ah,
in the podcast
ah.
world. So, kicking off our Tantrums, um, hydration packs, race packs, call them what you will. Let's get one on show here. I do have one here. The amazing Tantrums pack. And we have a discount link as well and a discount code for 15% off. And that's more than what you will find anywhere. So stick to socials and you'll get that discount. And also, last thing I want to announce is I launched yesterday a shoes and gear channel on Instagram, just so that I can share some things that I'm testing because, we're all gear junkies at heart here. We love running and we love the gear. So, yeah, go and subscribe to that. You'll get it in the stories. But the show must go on. Western States. Let's fucking go, Ricky. Come on. How was it? It was bloody amazing, wasn't it?
Ah, man, it was unreal. It was unreal. Like, you know what I mean? From the few weeks been over there, from seeing Broken Arrow, from all the hype that was building into Western States Week, and like I don't know, like I've dreamt about this race for years, but I mean, living it, experiencing it, doing it, seeing it, insane. It was just an insane buzz for the whole weekend, and to be honest, I'm still buzzing from it. I'm still buzzing from it.
And will be for a while, to be fair. Let's just summarize some of the takeaways from it. You were obviously deep in the canyons, and I was crewing and getting to see the race firsthand. And thanks to you being up front, basically, I got to see all of the race, which was an amazing experience. I've crewed before, and it wasn't at the sharp end. But Abbey Hall won the women's race, kind of took it out at the front and commanded that. Uh, Great to see her come back from injury, long-term injury, and nail that race. But it wasn't a quick finish. I think it was like 97 minutes off Courtney's time. So, but as we always say, like you got to race the race. It's not about racing the time. What did you think of the what you know about the women's race and Abby in particular?
Yeah, Abby actually passed me going up the escarpment, so she didn't go off at the clappers. Like she was still patient on that first climb, but by the time she got to the top of the escarpment, she was in the lead. So she was stamping her kind of like what she wanted to do from the get go, from the top of that escarpment. Now I know that I think Ida Nielsen did pass her in the high country and was leading for a very, very short time going into the first aid station. That was about 16, 10 miles in. Eden Nielsen might have took the lead, but it was only short lived. And then from there on out, Abby was flying. And I think she put 12 minutes into everybody else by the time she got to Robinson Flats. So, look, she had a day. She had a fantastic day, and it was great to see it. But we were talking about her before, and we were saying if she gets it right, she will have a day. Like, she definitely had a day.
Yeah. And one thing that stood out from like the crewing perspective was like Terex and precision fuel and hydration as a combo. That was a hell of a crew.
Insane, insane. Because like I had the like we'll talk about it soon, but like I mean, me and Emily were running together. Emily's a Terex athlete as well, and every time she did get into an aid station, there was like 20 people around her, but not just 20 people that was like bombarding her. They knew what they were doing as well, like so they were super efficient. They were getting the job done quick, and I mean to have that kind of a team around you, it must be incredible. Like it must be incredible, and the just even the buzz you'd get off that amount of people making a fuss about you, telling you you're doing great, telling you where you are. It's like free energy. You're getting energy off those people. If you've got the right mindset, you get huge energy off your crew.
Yeah, yeah. And then what about Fei Zhao smashing another 16-hour podium race, podium finish? So that was pretty epic. Like, and also super like fun. She's like such a positive, fun person. You just see the energy around her.
Yeah. And look, I'm so lucky. I feel actually really lucky because my game plan was like kind of get stuck in with the lead women, and I got to run with so many different lead women in that race. And Fujao was one of them. Like I was side by side with Fujao on the first climb. And I mean, she's nothing. There's nothing to her. She's like my height, but she's got really, really strong looking calves on her and she can just bounce uphill. Like I go up up hills pretty quick, and she was just bouncing up ahead of me. Like it was so impressive to see. Like, and she was patient. She wasn't rushing or anything like that. She was getting into aid stations. She was smiling. She was trying to have a bit of fun with people. And she was just very calm, very cool, get her water. She was using goo rocked in at those aid stations that weren't, where crew wasn't allowed. So she wasn't like stressing about not getting exactly what she wanted. She was happy to do whatever, take whatever the aid stations had to offer. She looked super composed. And I mean, she's a beast, man. She's a beast.
Yeah, 100%. And then one of the other things, cool storylines, I think, was that Fiona Pascal finished in fifth, 11 minutes off Beth's winning time from 2021. I think that's like an epic story. I'm doing an interview with Fiona later on today, for the podcast. So
Oh, that's class.
you ran with Fiona as well. I remember seeing that one of the pictures circulating, and you were in the Emily Fiona sandwich. That's
Yeah.
at one point. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, but like, I'm guessing. Can I talk about the bear now? Can I
No,
talk about the bear?
no,
Not
mate.
yet.
We've got the questions to come to.
Yeah,
Jesus, have you not looked at the prep
but
notes?
the reason I say is because that was pretty much that time. So it was one of those where I decided that if I kept going with Emily, we were about 70K deep in, and I was thinking if I keep going with Emily, I think I'm gonna hit a brick wall, because we were pushing the pace. We were after covering the first 50K in 5 hours and 2 minutes. You know what I mean? With some tasty elevation, and I was thinking this pace is good, but if I keep pushing with Emily, it'll probably go too hot. And I just felt like I needed to back off a little. So as I backed off, then Fiona came up on me. So I got to run with Fiona for, I would say, no more than like 3K, and she just looked so smooth. She looked really, really strong. A small bit of chat over here and there, not a whole pile because we were doing what we were doing, but she looked really good. She looked really strong. Like she's so tall. She's got a really good kind of like gait to her. She looks like a really, really efficient runner. That's kind of what I was saying when I seen her. I says, man, that girl's going to go so well. You know what I mean? And I'm delighted for her because she's a super nice person. She kind of is in the shadow of her sister, but she definitely showed that she's every bit as good, if not better, because I think her fifth place time, and was quicker than Bet's winning time. Is that right?
No, it was 11 minutes off.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like two unbelievable athletes, two first siblings to be in the top 10 of Western States. Incredible.
Yeah, no, that's a cool story. Uh, Looking forward to chatting to Fiona about that later on. And then let's jump on to the men's field because we got to get to the viewers a bit of questions about your race, about our experience out there, and the bear story, obviously.
Yeah.
Caleb Bolson smashed it. First win for Utah. I feel like an American saying something like that. Uh, the way he executed and in that drip
Mm,
was pretty cool. Like he's not cool enough to wear that top unless he goes and smashes a race, and that top was fire, I think, and he just like he executed perfectly. So chill. You see this in so many other sports. Like the best people, they're just so reserved. It made me
mm.
think about Oscar Piastri, the Formula One driver. It's hard. Like he will win a race, go and pole, and it's hard to get an emotion out of him.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
so chill. Like his resting heart rate is probably like 30 or
Yeah.
something. So what did you think of Caleb smashing it?
Uh, Actually, what I took away from was like Caleb's finish, right? So I wouldn't have seen a whole pile of what he was doing during the race. I've seen tons of highlights since the race. But the thing that I saw at the end was like when he got up to the line, he didn't look absolutely wrecked. He just he grabbed the banner, he held it up, he took his kid. It was very composed. But then I read his report on the race
On
yesterday.
Substack?
I don't know
Yeah.
on Substack, and it was so interesting to hear how much pain that man was actually in for the last 40K of that race. And it was more like it wasn't that he was super composed and controlled at the end. It was more like he was more zombie like, and it was like that was it. The tank was empty. His soul was probably even gone at that stage, if you know what I mean. It was just like, I'm so glad I'm done. I can't even celebrate. I'm so effed. You know what I mean? There was nothing left. And his report was so good. I don't know, I think it's worth putting a link for that up somewhere after the show or something so that people can read it because to hear what he had to go through to fend off second and third, like phenomenal bit of running, phenomenal bit of pacing from Anthony Costalis as well, because Anthony like pretty much dragged him from the river to the finish line. I mean, dragged him. You know what I mean? Made him run, made him push, and
I know the
and
feeling.
even exactly. And like we'll even get into that later because like you really do understand what it means to have a pacer. Like I would never have said that before this race, but this is one race where I was so happy to have a pacer, and I'm sure he was so happy to have Anthony pick him up and somebody as good as Anthony as well. And also, I think Anthony Casares is cool enough to pull off that Nike shirt, and I think with the two of them together, like I just thought it was a super cool looking thing to see the two of them, in those ridiculous tops. But if you can win a race and you're wearing that top, you can make it cool. Hey, it's super cool.
Everyone will be wearing them next year at States.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Hey, if that's the marginal gain, then everyone's going to be saying, "Well, we need to cut massive holes and get sunburnt."
But it's also the thickness of the
Yeah,
material meant that it held water. And then you're getting
yeah,
that natural cooling because we know the importance of just being wet in
yeah.
that temperature. So yeah, that's really interesting. And what about Killian? Killian, the GOAT, excuse me, finishing third. So many people had him first in fantasy. So did I, because
Mm,
I would never pick against Killian, but he surged from 12 minutes back to 2 minutes back of Chris Myers. And he didn't even surge, like he surged really
mm,
late in the race,
mm,
was finishing with some 5 minute miles apparently. And then at the next day at the prize giving, everyone was like hobbling. Chris Myers, even when he went up to get his buckle, he had to sit down. He said that he took like a bit of a wobbly and felt like really ill
Mm,
for about a minute. Whereas Killian, he run up to get his medal, all happy. I think it was like a bit of fun that he was having.
of course.
So
Yeah.
thoughts on Killian?
Yeah. Look, it's like that. It's kind of one of those things. It's people that say, did he leave it too late? Why didn't he surge earlier? But I mean, that's racing, right? Sometimes you have a real low, and he could have had a real low for like 10 or 15K where he couldn't get that surge, and then all of a sudden he's fueling better, he's getting carbs on board, and the legs can come back. And I can actually like attest to that as well, that's what does happen. You know what I mean? That's what can happen. You can come from like the depths of despair and get legs from somewhere and have a strong finish. The only problem was for Killian was it just came a little bit too late, because I really think that Chris Myers had nothing left. I mean nothing left. So if that race did go for another K, I think Killian would have had him, but it's 100 miles. How much longer do you need the race to be? That's racing. And Killian was so close, but I mean, still such an impressive race to come back 15 years later and run 75 minutes quicker than what he ran his PB at when he won at that time. So unbelievable. Like, and it'll just show you like the way that the sport has gone, the way that we're looking after ourselves better, the science is doing us favors, and all this is adding up, that the longevity of the sport is getting bigger and bigger, further and further, and limits can be pushed and pushed and pushed. Yeah.
Yeah, and like one of the cool things about Killian is he's he's coming across like he wasn't there to win. Like he's obviously we know he would have liked to win, he would have wanted to win. He's a competitor, but he seemed at peace with the result because he went out, he executed, he was he had competition, and it felt like he was happy to have had competition. And he said afterwards that he hopes that he can come back in another 10
Mm.
years and have competition at whatever stage in life he's at, which just like, I just think that's so cool because we all as runners want to be, I want to be that 70-year-old that's doing a marathon
Yeah.
or what, it doesn't matter the time, you're just physically able. And Killian came across with that kind of joy of running, which I just think was like overshadowed everything.
Yeah, but you can also see that it's the competitor in him. He wants to go up against the best. He wants to test himself against the best, because I think that's when he has most fun, is when he is pushing those limits, not when he's like 20 minutes ahead of somebody in an easy race. He doesn't want that. He wants to be able to see how good he is up against the best. You know what I mean? And that's something so cool, something so cool for us to look up to, and I want to be like Killian. You know what I mean? That's the attitude you want everyone to have. That it's not an easy win you're looking for. You're looking to be tested. You're looking to be pushed, and that way you will get the best out of yourself. If somebody else is pushing you, iron sharpens iron. That's what we say.
Yeah, so true. The GOAT continues to deliver, even if not in victory. A couple more things on the men's race before we jump into the questions that have been submitted. Dan Jones ran for a fifth place finish. I kind of what I'm thinking is I'm a little bit disappointed he was fifth. Do you think that he will come back next year? Do you think like he's gotten enough out of it? Also, I want to pose the question. I feel like this is a race that elites have to do. Like
Mm,
you need to show up for states or UTMB. It feels like that's where the sport is now.
yeah. If he goes back next year, is that his fourth year in a row? Is that his fourth year in a row at States? It will be.
Yeah,
Yeah. And like you said, yeah, it's like if you finish in the top 10, you kind of feel like you have to go back. Otherwise you might never get back. That can be always in your head too. That even though he's that good, you might never get back, and you never know when you get another chance. But to come fifth again, I don't know how that plays up in his head. Does he kind of go, well, I gave it everything I had, and I came up short again. Maybe it's time I try something else, or does he have like that fight in him where he says, no, I need to go again. I know I can do better. I can win this race, you know? And that question goes back to a lot of athletes. That question goes back to the likes of Rod Farver. That question goes back to so many guys. It goes back even to Adam Peterman, you know, like who just didn't have a day. They didn't have the day they wanted. And then do they like say, oh, well, I need to get back to States, you know? And that can be something that can haunt a runner as well, but also ruin a runner as well, because then they don't get to do other races. Like if Dan Jones doesn't do States, then does he do UTMB? If he does do States, then that means he doesn't do UTMB. How does that play out? And I mean, all that is in the athlete's head, you know?
Yeah. And like, I have no inside knowledge. I just have a gut feeling that I feel like Dan, because of the way he came across pre-race, he was going out to run his race. And I think he was fifth because he ran his race and didn't uh, selectively burn matches at certain points to stay in the hunt. That's
Yeah.
the impression I get from Dan. What do you think? Do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, it could be that way that he was trying it, that he was sort of saying, look, they'll come back to me. I remember when I was watching John Albon run last year, and he was saying in his interview after the race that he just assumed that runners would have gone out too hot and they would have came back to him, you know, and he says that normally happens. But these guys now are so fit and so specifically trained for this race that they don't come back, that they're able to hang on. You know, the likes of Caleb, the likes of Chris, the likes of Killian, these boys aren't coming back. They're either gonna stick it or they're gonna blow up trying to stick it, you know. But it's very rare that they're all gonna just fall back and then let somebody else pass them. They're machines.
Yeah, I see a couple of comments in the chat. Do we think Caleb's going to toe the line at UTMB? I think this is a unique year because we have Worlds at the end of September. So we may have had more elites targeting states because then they get a full reset before
Yeah.
Worlds. I don't expect anyone to make the smart choice of doing UTMB and Worlds. I would even question the selection of that person on the team. We do know that some elites that won their way in, thinking of David Sinclair
Mm,
and Ryan Becker as well at Broken Arrow. They ran into the US team in the 46K, and they're both toeing the line for CCC 3 weeks
yeah.
before. I think that's a mistake. I spoke to David Sinclair in Palisades, and he was like, "Oh no, I think I can do that turnaround, no problem." I honestly think that that turnaround is dictated by money. You
Yeah.
know, you get paid for CCC and you don't get as much, but you do get, there is some sponsors that will give an incentive at Worlds. He races for Craft. So yeah, tricky one. But I think that's why we'll probably see a totally different field at UTMB this year because of Worlds.
I, and plus, Western States is 100 miles. 100 milers are different. Like, I'd be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if the likes of, let's say I saw the state of Chris Myers after that race. Chris Myers was hardly able to hold himself up long enough to get the picture taken at the end. His eyes were rolling back in his head. I thought he was going to collapse. And like, I don't think that he will have another good race this year. That's just what I'm saying, because I think that he left it all out there on Western States. That if he races again this year, it won't be anything special, because I think that he put himself in a notorious hole, and I would imagine that Caleb Olsen did something very similar. That he will be in a big hole as well. That's the difference between Killian and most other people. Killian is the type of guy that who actually will be able to go and race well throughout the year. But I think most of those other lads, that's their year. Their year is done now.
yeah, 100%. And that is something that we see in the elites. And I see it in you as well. Like your ability to get up and do it again and do it again and recover is totally different than mine. And the level is even more uh, pronounced with those guys at the very front. Killian is in a bracket of his own.
Mm.
He has a deeper well, and if Killian probably was 30 in that race or the same age as those other guys, he probably, you have to say been, he would have finished faster,
Yeah.
at a guess. So last question on the men's field. We gotta talk about Papa Roach, David Roach, DNF. Many people called it, and I want to just say, like, I want to put it out there that just because you think that David Roach was going to DNF, which I did, it does not mean that I have hate for him.
Yeah.
I just didn't believe that that was a great strategy for that type of race. But I was literally 10 meters away from David's pace or his crew tent at Forest Hill, 100K mark, and I watched them come in, and everyone was in and turned around pretty quick. 2, 3 minutes max. 2, 3 minutes passed, and there was no movement, and the crowd was just congregating around him, more cameras, and that's when I started to pay attention, and I could see like the head was down, and it looked like he was getting talked back from the edge of the cliff, and yeah, he was just having, I wouldn't say he was just having a bad day. I think he just burnt too many matches, and that puts you into a hole that then makes you feel this way. Like we understand that you feel shit in an ultra because you've underfueled, you've gone too hard, or you've come in with an illness or something like this.
Mm.
And he went too hard and got
Yeah.
himself, into too much of a hole. Thoughts on David Roach?
He went too hard against lads that can go harder. That's what he did. He backed himself, which is brilliant. The confidence is there. But again, if you go back to that article that Caleb Olsen had in Substack, he was saying that he was sitting behind Roach because Dave Roach likes to lead. He likes to be in the lead. But exactly, I love you guys. And Caleb Olsen was running behind him for a while and kind of going, no, 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 this pace is too slow. I need to go. So he went to push and he pushed and he realized then he was in front and he went, well, that was easy, because the pace that David Roach had set out, he probably thought that was, yeah, that's the course record pace. That's the pace that's going to win it. But everybody else was able to pass him out like he was standing still. We saw it again with Killian. It was an uphill surge. David Roach was running up that hill. He was running up that hill and Killian went by him like he was standing still, because there's levels and then there's levels. And I know exactly what that means. Like, I am like a good runner, right? Coming from winning races here in Ireland. And you think that you're at that level, but I'm not stupid enough to know that there's then levels on top of that and levels on top of that. Like, there is some supreme athletes out there, and most of them were in Western states. Not one or two of them. There was 10 or 11 of them, and they can all do the dance.
Yeah, totally. It's funny you should say that, and this is a nice segue into talking about your race and our experience there. But I was up at the top of the escarpment for the start of the race. So how many was that? 4K, 5K into the
Uh,
race,
5K, yeah.
all uphill. Tasty bit of art, biggest climb in the race, and like 18 or whatever men, not 18, maybe like 15 men came through, and the gap back down the hill, you couldn't see anybody. And then the women started to come through, and then you came through,
Yeah.
and then a few other people came through, and then there was a massive gap to like you wouldn't even have said that the mid packers, like just it was just so pronounced that this uphill start, all uphill, and it basically put everyone into their brackets. And we look at you and we know how good a runner you are and how well you do, and you were still in 5K, probably, I don't know, several minutes behind the lead men.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
unbelievable to see. Like it's, I would say as a runner, it's humbling.
yeah.
For me, I was just seeing it and going, those guys are really fucking good.
Mm. Like for me, looking at them, I'm just kind of like, well, if I can see them, if I can see them, I mustn't be doing too bad. You know, that kind of way, like that I can see them at all times there going up that hill. But like I daren't push any harder. Like this is 100 mile race. Like, you know, you're less than. I'm talking now. I'm like 3K into the race at this stage, and I'm saying, oh, I can still see them. You know. But I mean, if I was trying to say like, well, I need to be up there with them lads. Well, if I'm up there with them lads, I ain't finishing that race. And sometimes you just have to, you have to just like check yourself and say, well, that's just that's the way it is, and that's how it is right now. Maybe I can close the gap, maybe I can get better, maybe I can do this and train and that and training. But I mean, these lads are, some of them lads are just phenomenal athletes. Like they're just, it's so impressive to see it as well. Like, you know, it's humbling for me, but it's very impressive to see that. Like I love to see it as well.
Yeah, like we're fans of the sport, and we're runners. That's top of the list. Everything else comes after that. Let's crack into the viewer questions and break down your own race and the experience. And for people who have joined since the intro to the show, this is Trail Talk live. We're not on a Monday this week. We're on, well, it's Friday in Sydney. It's Thursday in Ireland. And for those that missed it, we're kicking off our Tantrums sponsorship this week. The Tantrums packs. We have an exclusive 15% discount from Tantrums. You'll find that nowhere else. I picked up mine in America, and I mean, I'm loving the color. I'm
Mm.
loving the pack. I can't wait to get using it. I'm going into the mountains next week. Um, and yeah, link in bio for that discount. And just also want to mention, I will stick a link to Caleb Olson's Substack in the Trail Talk broadcast channel on Instagram. So go to the profile page, you'll find a link for that
Worth the
there.
read, definitely worth the read. It's so good, so
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Um, let's crack into it, Ricky. I'm just looking at the questions. We've got loads here. Where will I start off? Okay. I'm just going to start it in the order that they came through. And it's about another piece of gear, and a special piece of gear because it relates to other heat-related questions. We've got the East Peak ice bandana. We were both rocking these. So
Mm.
was everybody. It's our sailor's bibs. Um, how was the ice bandana? How did you find that? And maybe broadly, let's speak a bit more broadly about and integrate the next question. Heat strategies, what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, Western States is super, super hot. You're talking in the canyons, 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Let
That's like 40.
let's talk some European now as well.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. So you got to say 100 degrees Fahrenheit because it sounds ridiculous. And then I'm going to say that's about 40 degrees. It's about 40 degrees Celsius. So it is like running in an oven. So heat is the main thing you have to deal with in this race. Yeah, there's altitude at the start, but you're dropping down. You know what I mean? You're going from 2,000 meters. You're running at 2,000 meters for maybe 40K, maybe 35K, I'd say at the start. But then you're dropping down, and Auburn is at like 200 meters, right? It's at 200 meters above sea level. So after 50K, there's no more needing to worry about altitude, right? You're on the way down. So heat is the main thing you have to worry about. Ice bandana. I never used an ice bandana before. I tried out a few ice bandanas, just your run of the mill ice bandana. You take it off, you shove some ice into it, you throw it on, you wrap it up around you, right? Few little problems with that is the ease of getting ice into it. Sometimes there's ice, you have to pull open the side and you try and get ice into it, and it's hard to cram the ice in and you have to move it around. Yeah, exactly. So the reason that I went for the East Peak, and I'm sure you went for the East Peak, is because of that zip, that
No,
ease of access. Well, you did because Killian got it.
I bought one because Killian bought two.
I'm
It's nothing to do
sorry,
with ease of
everybody.
access.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
wanted what Killian has.
So for me, I thought about the ease of access. How do I get ice into that without having to take it off? And like when I saw that zip on it, I was like, that's it. That's enough for me. So all day long, I had that ice bandana on me. I never had to take it off. It was just if I wanted to put it at my front, I could just flip it around. If I wanted to cool my chest and up around my neck, that was what I do. If I otherwise, I'd have it spun around, have it at my back. I'd get into aid stations. I would just unzip the back, and the aid station crews, you guys or the volunteers at the other aid stations that you were than that, they would just fill and fill and fill with ice and zip it up, and I was gone. So there was a lot of time saved taking it on and off and tying it up and making sure I had it tied right. Set it, forget it, zip it, unzip it, done. Great piece of kit.
And like I was a little bit worried going into it how it would feel, like just the back. Well, you were constantly, everything was wet because you were getting water poured over you and the ice was melting on the bandana. I was concerned about chafing
Mm.
and things from that. Not massively concerned. I knew I only had to do, a handful of hours in that state. But it really wasn't an issue at all. But the feeling of the ice on the back of your neck, the top of your shoulders, really was a game changer. Like it really cooled things down. It took away like the intensity of the heat of the day, and the ice also lasted a long time.
Yeah.
Like I would say, we were hitting aid stations. Let's just round it up and say, give or take an hour, and there was always ice left in the bandana, and I even liked like the metronomic sound of hearing the ice with every foot plant. It was one of those things that could just help you with the rhythm. So I kind of like that. How was the ice for you? Like, did you even think about the noise?
I never passed any heat in the noise. Like the other ice bananas were way noisier. The ones I was using in training, they were just way noisier and they moved around a lot more. So they'd be like sloshing around from side to side. And I found that very annoying. Whereas in the East Peak one, all right, it moved around a little, but but very, very minimal compared to the other ones. And that was because there's silicone pads in it and whatever way they were just sticking onto my top, it wasn't moving around and it definitely wasn't jumping up and down. So like it was way better than the other ones I was using during training. So I'm going to give East Peak a 9 out of 10 for functionality and practicality. 100%. Like if ever I have to do another hot race, and it's a funny one. Like after doing that race, it opens your eyes to what you could do better in races over here in Europe because we never use heat management like that. We don't use ice bandanas and we don't ever really think about soaking ourselves head to toe in water. We don't really think about that. So it's definitely opened my eyes up to like doing Lavaredo or doing UTMB in a hot year or TDS in a hot year. If you can at all get ice in there.
Yeah, no, 100%. And who knows what the World Championships will be like?
Yeah.
Like it could very easily be super hot. Thinking back to 2023 when I did Swiss Alps 100, and I had to like it was mid to high 30s at points, and I would have benefited from a nice bandana at certain points.
Yeah.
Like I remember getting into a drinking trough, like a horse trough, and just submerging myself. Because that's what my coach had said. Like, get yourself submerged in water, make
Yeah.
yourself wet. And that's what the ice bandana is doing. But this is not sponsored at all. So we need to move on. What was it like? Like still on the heat thing, you were out in Nevada for 3 weeks before the race, let's say.
Yeah.
What was it like? Because that was hot. It was hotter than where the race started. It must have been great, like training out the back of Chris and Michelle's in their home sort of peaks. Plenty of vert, exposure, hot. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, like if anyone is thinking about doing Western States and they're thinking about where to stay, you don't stay in Auburn. There's no point staying in Auburn. And you can stay in the South Lake, the south side of Lake Tahoe or something like that for altitude. But to be honest with you, I'd be staying in Reno all day long because you've got the altitude, but you've got the openness and you've got the heat. You go to Tahoe, you've got all the tree cover. You go to one other side of Nevada, you've got tree cover, and tree cover is great, but it's no good for race day. Race day, you want to be trained in exposed, hot areas. And behind Chris and Michelle's house was just perfect. There was like no tree cover, no shade, just sun beating down on top of you. So it was perfect. It was perfect for it. But
In the whole vista
yeah,
out of their back, there was like six trees clumped together. Everything else was like mountainous desert and proper vert as well. Like I think the peaks up behind them were going up to maybe 1800 meters.
yeah, yeah. Well, if you went to that high point where the tower was, where I went to most days, that was at 2,400 meters. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
we were already at I think 1450, something like that. So I was going up straight from 1450. So perfect spot for both altitude and heat training.
yeah. And still on the heat thing, did you have any other heat strategies? Sauna, hot bath? Talk about that.
Yeah, so what I was doing was, look, I'm not a fan of the sauna. It's just something I just don't enjoy the sauna. And I'm not saying you have to enjoy it. Like it's heat training, right? It's not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be enjoyable. I just don't do the sauna. But what I was doing was, if I did a long run, I did this probably after every 20K, 25K run, 30K run. I went straight back to the house and I ran a disgustingly hot bath. And I lay in that bath for about 40 minutes, you know. So that's what I was doing. I was running out in the heat for 3.5 hours. I was coming back and then I was hopping into a hot bath for another 40 minutes. And it was zero crack. It was no fun, but it had to be done, you know. And like I feel like I was very well adapted to the heat going into that race. And this is the funny thing about this race. I think the thing that I know, and I've heard this from other athletes as well, that they managed their heat so well, right? So they iced and they stayed wet and they stayed cool all day long. And that's brilliant, right? And it makes you feel like you're managing the heat. But really, if you think about it, the melt, the ice that you put in your ice banana is getting you from aid station to aid station, but it's melting. And if the ice in the back of your neck is melting, you're melting. You are cooking. You just don't realize you're cooking because you're cool, but you're cooking. You're still out in 40-degree heat. And no matter how you feel, you can think that, oh no, the heat isn't getting me. But yet all of a sudden your legs aren't moving as quick as they were, an hour ago. And I wasn't cramping, but I was definitely slowing down. And it wasn't like, I wasn't like, well, why am I slowing down? Like, I don't understand why I'm slowing down. You're slowing down because your body is overheating. You just don't realize it's overheating because you're managing that heat so well. So no matter what you do, you can't get away from that heat. Like, it's an incredible feeling that, that to know that, oh yeah, I'm cool and the heat isn't bothering me, but at the same time, I know I'm getting cooked. And even since the race, I can feel, I don't know, I have a weird feeling where I feel like the heat is still leaving my body. Do you know what I mean?
Right?
That I actually feel like I'm still cooked. And it's like the heat is like almost leaving my body. It's a strange feeling. Yeah, it's a strange feeling.
I think what you're actually experiencing is the cold of the Irish summer seeping into your bones.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm telling you,
And your tan will
yeah,
disappear as well as the blood recedes inside your body to keep your core
yeah,
warm.
yeah. Stupid jacket on me all day today.
Something that I just want to point out is like you doing that hot bath after your runs. I had to, like, I stumbled across knowing this. It's like one day we were back at the house and like, where were you? Oh, I was in the bath. But think of the other people in social media land that would have been making this a
Mm.
thing, making this a story. Nobody knew that Ricky Wynn was doing the hot baths every day after running in the desert. And I think that says something about your character or something like you felt no need to share that information. You weren't hiding it. It was just like, I'm doing this because I'm trying to get ready for this race, and that's that. And we're only talking about it because somebody asked a question, and like I only stumbled across it because I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So like Ricky wins, Ricky win. That's what I'm saying here.
yeah.
Right, moving on. I'll not ask you to comment about yourself or your character. Shoe choice. What was the prototype shoe like? I don't think we're going to talk about the name of the shoe because I
Mm,
think you're under some restrictions on that. But what I would say is, like, check out Believe in the Run and the Dirt Division. They have some pictures of this shoe there. You'll see the name. But Hoka had a prototype shoe they're releasing this summer, and it's for less technical uh, ultra trail
yeah.
than the Tecton X3. So talk a bit about that shoe, what it was like. You locked and loaded that, and that was you all day in that shoe. Talk about it.
Yeah, like again, I can't go into detail about like stack heights or what sort of outsole is on it, what sort of grips on it. So you're not going to hear anything about that, but you will hear that the shoe performed really well. It was a set and forget. I put that shoe on, I put a pair of socks on, put that shoe on, and I never touched that shoe again. That shoe never came off. My socks never came off. I never got a hot spot. I never got a blister. I never once said, this is the wrong shoe for this course. It was the right shoe for this course. The only issue I had with that shoe is that I felt like I was not running fast enough in that shoe because my legs weren't able to run fast enough towards the end of the race, if you know what I mean. Like that midsection, that shoe, it wants to go, it wants to make you run fast. But unfortunately, the 100-mile distance slows you down just because it's 100 miles, you know. But I mean, the shoe did exceptionally well. Did exceptionally well, and I'm very excited about that shoe. I think it's a super cool shoe. Looks ace. Doesn't look so good now because I have the red dirt welded and caked into it. It's hard to even tell what kind of a shoe it is. But no, look, it was a great shoe. Super impressed with it, and I'm very, very pleased with the selection I made on choosing that because I got that shoe given to me. I was told we'd like you to race in it, but they said it's up to you. If you don't want to race in it, you don't have to. There was no pressure on me to wear that shoe. I took that shoe out for 40K. I got a size sent out to me. It was a half a size too small. It was like my size, but it's a small fitting shoe. Like most carbon plated shoes, you need to go a half size up. I then got a half size up. I think one day before the race, I put 5K into that shoe and then I raced 100 miles in it with no issues.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. For everyone that is in the Instagram live chat, I think Josh may have posted the name of that shoe. So you can see it there. I'll probably stick some pictures of the not your shoe, another shoe, another version of the shoe in the Shoes and Gear broadcast channel. So check that out after the show. And like last thing on that shoe, I saw some elites wearing it, but they changed into it. Like think of Heather Jackson. Heather Jackson changed into that shoe at Robinson Flat. So after the high country, uh, so she didn't have the confidence in the high country in that shoe, which makes a lot of sense. Like she wouldn't be, that's not her forte,
Yeah.
the technical stuff. But interesting observation, I thought as well.
Fujao did the same. Fujao was in the Tecton X3 in the high country and then changed into the new shoe
I
later on
know
in the
that I
race.
know that you can't see the chat as well as I can during the Instagram live, but Josh literally just said that as typed it in as you said that. So
Yeah.
great minds thinking alike. On to aid station crew pacing this section of the viewer submitted questions. So what was the procedure for the aid stations and the crew points? And let's talk a bit about the ones that the crew weren't at. So you were going into the aid stations and doing what?
Yeah, so you know me, right? I don't like to overcomplicate that, and the simpler the better, right? So if I sign up to a race and a race is using X, Y, or Z for fuel, I'm using that. I'm using that because it saves me having to carry anything. I've got a pretty iron stomach. I never really have any issues keeping stuff down. I never any problem drinking A, B, or C. I don't care what it is. If it's there, I'll use it. If you can tell me that there's at least 30 or 40 grams of carbs in that 500 mils that I want to get every time I'm at an aid station, I'm good to go with that. So what I was using was the GU Roctane, because GU sponsor the Western States. So at every aid station, there was GU Roctane caffeine free and GU Roctane caffeine. So I was using the caffeine free, but I was then also carrying all my gels in a hydro flask. So I had the gels in a 250
Yeah.
ml hydro flask. So I was getting 4.5 gels. That was the SIS beta fuel. So 4.5 of them, they're 40 grams of carbs per gel. I was getting 4.5 of them into each one, and then I was carrying a spare gel. So I had 5.5 gels in between each of those crude aid stations. So I knew that that hydro flask would get me from the start to where I meet you, and I just pick another one up, get me to Forest Hill, pick another one up, get me to the finish. And I was always taking an extra gel or two just to make sure that I had enough as well. And I was just stuffing them into my raid belt. But in between that, then, so the flasks that you would have had at the cruise station, they would have had Torque and Gatorade. So I was just taking mouthfuls of Gatorade, but I was using Torque with 60 grams of carbs in that. So overall, I was hitting like 70 to 75 grams of carbs per hour every hour.
Yeah, yeah, I think you meant GOEWEAR Roctane. Yeah, well, that was like 659 grams per 500 mils, which is kind of nuts.
It's 55, right?
55.
55 if you buy it out of the shop and you mix it the way you're supposed to mix it. Look, you're in a race environment where they're mixing absolute gallons and gallons and gallons of this stuff, so you can never be sure that it's 55. But just by looking at the color of it, the way it's mixed, you know that there's at least 30 to 35
Yeah,
grams.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I'd be kind of saying that's where it is. I don't think it's any more than 35. I wouldn't say it's 40 just because of the amount that they're using and they're mixing. They're just filling away, mixing away as fast as they can. But if I can kind of gauge that I'm getting 30 to 35 grams per 500 mil, I'm good with that, because then again, I'm taking the 40 grams of SIS. So I'm hitting my 70, 75 grams of carbs.
yeah. It certainly didn't feel like there was a consistent amount. Like sometimes it was a dark purple, and sometimes it was lighter than like lilac or lavender, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever way you want to call it.
Yeah.
But as you say, even if you're getting half the dilution, you're probably getting enough because you're like
Yeah.
topping up.
And the
And
aid stations are so close together, especially after you come out of the high country. When you come out of the high country, after the first 50K, the aid stations are like 8K apart, no more than 10K apart. So you kind of can always say, well, this bottle's going to get me to the next station. That's the way I was doing it. And my bottles were just about running out as I was coming into an aid station. So you can time it so well.
yeah, the aid stations were spaced out brilliantly. Certainly from whenever I started pacing, I loved it. I started with two bottles,
Yeah.
and I just filled up the Roctane, and I carried some Precision Hydration 90s, and I was munching on that as well. But like if I was running that race myself, go all the way.
Yeah.
I would just buy the gels, and then at each aid station I just lift whatever I need.
Yeah.
Because
Like,
like we were coming into the aid stations and I was saying, how long to the next one? Oh, 5 miles. All right, 5 miles, whatever. I would take a gel and I'd fill up my bottles. And
mm,
then, if I wasn't doing that, I probably just would have taken like an extra gel. It would have saved me starting with, 200,
yeah.
300 grams of precision in my belt.
Yeah, like it's one of the most favorite things about the race is the amount of stuff I don't have to carry.
You love
You
that?
know, I love that, and that's like right up my street. Give me a handheld bottle and a couple of gels, a raid belt, and I'm gone. I'm out the door. Don't need to carry a vest. Don't need two bouncy bottles hitting me in the chin. Don't need all the mandatory gear in the back. Like, it's so good. It's almost free. You're running free. You know what I mean? It's a great feeling, I think. But I have to say that, like, the goo rocked in, like it goes down easy. It was actually really good. You were getting it. It was iced up as well. It was cold wherever they were pulling it out of. Like it was always cold. And now the flask I was using an insulated flask, so it was always cold. It was never warm. Whereas when I was in the high country and I was drinking the Torque, I had two bottles of Torque. By the time I got to the second bottle was warm, and it was horrible. Like, and you were just drinking it for the sake of drinking it. Whereas in the goo all day was cold and it was lovely and it was refreshing.
And
Yeah.
I was getting like the ice water from your bandana running down, running down
Yeah.
over as well. Look, we've got loads of questions, and we do need to keep things moving. Saw one comment about have I missed the bear story? You have not missed the bear story. We're coming to that. Ricky, last thing on hydration and fueling. Were you supplementing with sodium? Was that something that you had to factor in?
No, because again, um, the I think the beta fuel electrolyte are full of electrolytes, and I wouldn't sweat that much anyway, and it's a very dry heat as well, so you're not actually losing that much salt. You know what I mean? I'd say that's one of the only races I've ever done where there wasn't salt all over me. Now, look, granted, I'm covered in water a lot of the time, but I never felt like I was low on sodium or in the need of salt. I never felt like I was.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump forward a little bit, and there's a couple of questions under crewing and pacing that we'll come back to. But like, what was your mental approach to the canyons? Because that was basically the section after the high country, let's call it there. What was your mental approach going into that? The 40-degree heat, like at the hottest part of the day.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things that my approach to that was get ice early, so instead of waiting until you get to the canyons to start icing and start getting wet, I was getting wet in the high country. I was cooling my body down so that when I got to the canyons, I wasn't overheated, because that's what people do. A lot of people make that mistake. By the time they get to the canyons, they're overheated and they're cooked, and then the canyons just cook them more. So that strategy worked really well for me. So I was icing from Red Star Ridge, which is 16K in. And then by the time I got to the canyons, I never really felt that heat. I never felt that intensity of the heat. The only thing I did feel is like there was a huge climb up. What felt like a huge climb up to Devil's Thumb. So from the swinging bridge up to Devil's Thumb, oh, that climb, yeah, that climb, and that's exactly what I did, right? So what they say is when you climb up from the swinging bridge up to Devil's Thumb, you give the thumb the finger, and I gave the thumb the finger, like, and everybody at the top bust out laughing, like, when I was coming up, because I was there sticking my finger up at this big thumb. But that climb was very, very hard. And look, anyone that's done the race, that's a climb that can break you. You know what I mean? If you're not mentally tough, a lot of people drop there or just after it. You know what I mean? Whereas in that climb just breaks them because it's 100 degrees. I actually think it was 38 degrees. I think it was 38 degrees when I was at the bottom of that, because somebody said it to me that they were watching the live feed and it was showing that it was 38 degrees down there. And 38 degrees down there is even hotter because because it's in the canyons, you've got the ground has been heating up for days, preheating, just like preheating an oven. So it's hot under you and then it's hot above you, and you're just sandwiched in the middle between all that heat. And it is truly an oven that you're running in, and your energy just gets zapped out of you. I'm there going, what's wrong with my legs? Why are they not able to get me up this hill quicker? I should be able to run this. I should be able to do this. But you're just cooking.
Yeah, and whenever you preheat the oven, your dinner cooks quicker. So there, that's what was happening. You're
Yeah.
just getting cooked quicker, and there's just not as much air movement down there as well. So it's just this hot air lingering, and you're in the oven. So how long did you run with Emily, and what was that like? Did she?
Uh,
One of the one of the questions, there was several questions about this because you had a lot, like a lovely moment with Emily at the track afterwards. You spent a lot of time with her, so like one of the other questions here is, did she pull you along? So talk a bit about that run with Emily, and then we'll move forward into the bear story.
Like from like our chats before the race, like what my game plan was going into it. And my game plan going into this race was hang on to the back of Emily Hallgood, because I know that Emily knows this race better than everybody. I know that Emily is a much stronger runner than I am and a much smarter runner than I am. So I'm thinking if I can just keep her close and let her tow me along, I'll be in a good place come the end of this race. And that's exactly what I did. I was a little bit behind her heading up the first climb, and I caught her by the top of the escarpment, and we were side by side, and I was like going exactly where I want to be. And then when we were running off the escarpment, Emily just like, because we know each other, right? We don't know each other well, but we know each other. And Emily just talks in front of me. And she goes, "Is that you behind me, Ricky?" And I said, "It is, yeah." And she goes, "Oh, great. We get to spend some time together." And I was thinking, this is class. And we were just chit chatting all the way. And we spent 70K running together. Like that was incredible. Like to be able to run 70K with Emily Hallgood, and every few minutes, man, it was so cool. It was like she'd say, "Ricky, are you drinking? Ricky, are you taking your gels? Ricky, are you hydrating?
I
Ricky,
love
have you
that part of
ice?"
the
You
story.
know, and it was like I had a smile on my face every time she said it because I was thinking, man, she's like my mammy, you know what I mean? And but I'm actually older than Emily, but I mean, she just has that way about her. She wants to mind you. She wants to make sure everybody's okay. And I just thought it was really special to get to spend 70K with her. Yeah, incredible.
70K, like that's a huge chunk of the race, and that's like through. So where did that break apart?
So just coming into last chance. So the last chance aid station. So yeah, so we're like 72K in or something like that, yeah. Into last chance, yeah. Yeah.
And
And
why did that break? Why did you stop running together?
because I just realized that this pace was just getting a little bit hot, and I felt like I felt like my legs were starting to like hurt. You know what I mean? I was thinking it's a bit early for them to start hurting. I'm only 70K in, and I was just thinking that all right, Granite Peaks is after peaking its head up. My race that I had 4 weeks ago was actually less than 4 weeks ago on race day, and it was like, all right, Granite Peaks is still not out of my legs. I'm not 100% recovered. And if I don't watch what I'm doing at the minute, as much as I really wanted to hang with her because I was thinking she's going to get me closer to that sort of 16 and a half hour time, I have to be smart right now and just back it off a little bit. And that's what I did. That's the only reason. And she's a beast, man. She's a beast. All these women are beasts. They're incredible athletes. And like for someone like me, at my level, that's kind of how we talk about it. Like if I'm talking to Paddy O'Leary or I'm talking to somebody else like that, they're asking me what my game plan, and our game plan is always usually stick with the lead ladies because number one, they're not running on ego, they're running on
Yeah.
brains, and they are very, very intelligent and they know how to race. So if you can hang with them for as long as possible, it'll put you in a good place.
And like elaborate a little bit then about you also flip-flopped between Emily and Fiona.
Mm.
What was that experience like? And like that was that near the breaking point?
That was near the breaking point, and I'll tell you, I didn't get to run that much with Fiona because Fiona was after coming from behind us. Now we had met her, I think, once or twice before, but we had pulled away from her, and it looked like she had faded, but she hadn't faded. She was just running her own race, and she knew exactly what she was doing. I'm guessing because as I left Emily to do her thing and me do my thing, Fiona came up on me very, very fast. Within like 2 minutes of dropping back from Emily, Fiona was there. And then within about 5 minutes, the bear story, that's when that happened.
So break this down. We need the details on the
Mm,
bear story. Take it away.
yeah. But so Fiona, at the time, right, when this happened, I believed that I just froze, right? I believed, and I've no problem saying this, that I believe I just froze and I did nothing, right? But
You
Fiona was texting
stopped.
me yesterday.
Literally,
Yeah,
you
no,
stopped.
I didn't stop moving. I didn't stop moving, but I mean, as in, I didn't say anything, and in my head, I didn't, right? And I didn't make any noise in my head. That's the recollection I had of it because I was
And
stunned, right? At
where,
what
like,
I'm
where is the bear? Like, you're
I'll tell you
stunned.
now. Yeah,
Come on.
I'll tell you in a second. But Fiona texted me and she said that thanks a million for doing that because you shouted at the bear. And I says, I don't think I shouted at the bear. She says, you did shout at the bear because you scared the bear as well. And then I was thinking, well, maybe I did, but I didn't remember that, right? So what happened was Fiona had passed me, and I'd say she was gone 100 yards from me, about 100 yards from me. And so she's only just there, right? She's only there. I could throw a stone at her, right? Over to the right hand side, there's a big clearing. There's a big clearing, so you can see right back to the trees. So there's like a load of tall, like they look like evergreen trees, right? Like forest trees. And out of this clearing, this bear comes out. The bear was moving so fast. I mean, the bear was moving at, it had to be 30, 35 miles an hour, like miles an hour. It was moving like a bullet out of a gun, right? But it was beelining for, so right in front of me, it was beelining for Fiona. And it got to within 3 foot of her. I would say 3 foot of her. Yeah. And she turned, she probably just spotted it with the corner of her eye. It'd be so cool to hear her perspective on it. But from what I saw, she turned, and the second she turned, she just started screaming and wailing her arms, wailing her arms. The bear went from like, let's say 30, 35 miles an hour, like, and then he kind of just went back, like almost like fell over. So he had like hit the brakes so hard and went to go backwards that he nearly fell over himself. Like he nearly toppled. And by this stage, I was still moving forward. So I then was within 10 foot of the bear. But for some reason, I didn't go backwards. I was still going forwards. It was crazy. And then the bear just pissed off to the side and went off. And then she was running ahead of me, and her two hands, she was like this. She was just shaking, shaking, shaking all over the place. And she was screaming. She was still screaming. And I was shouting at her then, going, oh my God, unbelievable, unbelievable. I can't believe you just did that. That was incredible. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. Like, I just couldn't believe how brave she was in that moment. You know what I mean? It was the bravest thing I've ever seen with my own two eyes. I never seen anything quite like it. That, like, it made a beeline for her. It was scary, man. And then she was able to scare it away, scare it away, run down the hill. Like, it was a fast downhill after that. The two of us, like, I was still running behind her, and she was sort of still like the adrenaline that was going through her body, the adrenaline that was going through my body was unreal because what happened then was as she was running away, I was just checking around me. I was checking everywhere, and I was looking around me. And then, of course, I was looking around me so much, I flipped myself, turned myself upside down, busted me hip, busted me arm, busted me hand, busted elbows. I said, get the fuck up, and keep moving. Relax, relax, relax. The bear's gone. The bear's gone. And like she was able to stay composed and have the race that she had. Like incredible.
That's mental. Like, just the energy dump
Yeah.
that would happen after that surge of fight or flight adrenaline.
Mm.
And it sounds like Fiona, her instinct was to fight, whereas maybe maybe your one wasn't.
No, like I felt like it was like I don't know, almost like an outer body experience. Like I felt like I had no control over that situation whatsoever and no idea how to control it. It just happened. There was nothing I was going to do to fix it, change it, avert it. There was nothing. I was just like I was somebody sitting in a cinema screen watching it happen in front of me. I had no control over it. Like, but she didn't need me, man. She was it. Honestly, so impressive. Like, and then to go on and finish the way she finished it, have race of her life, finish fifth female in an incredible time, I don't know, like I can only clap at how impressive that was.
Yeah,
Insane.
I look forward to getting the story from Fiona's
Mm.
perspective later today, and that interview will be out. I think we'll maybe put it out on Monday.
Do you
Uh,
know
s-
what? She's such a beast. She'd say, "Oh yeah, I seen a bear." She'd probably say, "Oh yeah, I seen a bear. Yeah, no big deal. Whatever. I just got on with it." Like,
I've got all the details from you, so I can quiz her on this with fine detail. Last thing on the bear then, how big was it? Like, was it fully mature? Was it a mama? Like, what's your perception of its size?
yeah, I don't think it was a mama bear, right? I don't think it wasn't humongous. I would say it was like, and definitely not a cub either. So in between, I don't know what that'd be. Like, it's like somebody asked me this question the other day, and I said like it was about the size of a cow, But I mean, it wasn't a bull, right? It was about the size of a cow. That's the way I look at it. But I don't give a shite. A bear's a bear, man. I don't want to see a bear at all.
Yeah, a bear the size of a cow seems pretty big to me. Yeah,
Mm,
it sounds like it was like just a young adult
yeah,
bear,
yeah,
and that's why it was maybe on its own as well. So, fuck man, that was a hell of an experience early on.
yeah,
Talk a little bit about because you did take you took a fall, and that affected you the rest of the race.
yeah.
Like I remember whenever I picked you up at the river, at Ruckachunky River, like we were going up that climb afterwards, and I can remember hearing you grunting,
Mm.
like you were suffering. You took a few painkillers at that point. So what was the damage?
Yeah, so like wherever I fell and hit, that bony part right on the outside of your hip. So I hit that pretty hard. And then after that, it was all right. I ran it off for a bit, but then it was coming back. So every time I went to climb and to run up a hill, there was a pain going from my hip, but it was going right down into my calf, and it was going right into the outside of my calf. And like a part of me was like, I've never had sciatica, but I was thinking this. In my head, it was like that's what that kind of must feel like, where it was like a nerve, and it was going right down into my calf, and I was having so much trouble to like kind of run uphill. So downhill, it was no problem. On the flat, it wasn't too bad, but on the climbs, it was so sore. I mean, it was really, really sore, and it was really slowing me down, and it was affecting me, like because I was having then to try and transfer all the power to my left foot. And if you remember then when I picked you up, or you picked me up, let's say, my left ankle started to get really sore because my left foot was doing so much work. And right now it's still really swollen. Like that's the only problem I have now. My hip isn't too bad now, but my left ankle is really swollen still, just from that extra work it was having to do. But I will say there was certain times when that pain went away and I thought, lovely, that's it, it's gone. But then it could come back again, and it was like a yo-yo, and it go away. If I managed to keep my leg cool and keep my legs kind of numb, it'd go away and I'd be able to run a bit. But then the minute I'd start heating up again, that pain would come back, yeah. And that kind of was getting to me a bit, especially on that climb, that big climb in the canyons. Like that was really hard. I found that I was really struggling to keep pushing, to keep getting up because that climb was so steep. And I was like, every step I took, it was like this shooting pain down my leg, and that was not nice.
Yeah. So, like, let's take it from there. You come into Forest Hill, the 100K, and you dropped a bit of time on the estimated splits, which were like just around 17 hours, let's say, give or take. And you dropped a bit of time, not a whole chunk of time, nothing certainly to worry about. But then between Forest Hill and the river, where then I met you again. Give us some thoughts on that because I think you did drop a couple of positions along that section. I think maybe you were starting to hurt. So, and we actually haven't spoke up too much about this section.
Yeah.
So, give us the info from Forest Hill to the river.
Yeah, it was funny because like I left Forest Hill, like I'll even backtrack a bit, right? I have a big thing about getting into aid stations and getting into aid stations in good spirits. I never want to get into an aid station where I make you, the crew, feel uncomfortable. I never want you to be thinking, oh, he's in bad form there. And I don't ever want you to feel like you have to G me up, because I should be the one coming in good spirits, because you're there for me. You know what I mean? I want the buzz to be good. I want to get energy off ye. And if I have no energy and I have shit energy, all you're going to give me back is sort of shit energy too. And I think that's a bad situation to be in. So if I can come in some kind of good spirits, I'll get good energy off you. So if you remember back to that very first aid session where I met you at Robinson Flat, I was kind of under pressure to make sure that I got out around the same time as Emily, because there was good momentum there with Emily and I wanted that to keep going. So when I got into that first aid session, I wasn't talking and I wasn't saying nothing. Now, you did your job very efficiently, and there probably wasn't much need for me to say much anyway, but I felt like,
On that though, we did feel like Chris and I did say we could do better. We wished you'd been a little bit with us a little bit longer, because would have been nice to put a bit more ice into your bandana, wash you down a little bit more, maybe just like have like maybe 20 seconds more just to, center a little bit,
mm,
because you were trying to keep with Emily, but Emily, who was getting crewed just beside us, she basically came in, took her pack off, put a new pack on with everything, new ice bandana, and away she went. So she had the full pit stop,
yeah,
whereas you had the shortened pit stop to stay with her.
yeah,
And we sort of felt, let's try and do better in the next one. And we were also not trying to, like, I was like, I'm not gonna, I don't want to ask you how you are.
mm,
Let's not bring you back to thinking, how do I feel? And I think I just said to you something along the lines of, talk to me. You
yeah.
tell me, what do you, anything to say? Because we know what we got to do, and if there's nothing to say, we've nothing to say.
Yeah, and like that, 100%. It was a very efficient stop, and it was perfect. You know what I mean? I had no issue what you did. You did everything right. I just felt like I could have been a little bit, let's say, happier or more positive, because at that stage of the race I was running really well and I was feeling really good, but I was just very conscious of getting the hell out of there. You know what I mean? And keep that momentum going. But at the same time, when I left that aid station, I was kind of like, hey, the next one you get into, you better make sure you're in better form than that, because I just felt like I was dismissive of you, if you know what I mean. I felt like I didn't like, not that I need to thank you all the time or say, but I just feel like if I'm smiling, that's a thank you to you, and and not alone do you get good energy off that, I get good energy off that as well. Like, I want to pretend to myself that I'm having a great time as well, like. So when I got into Forest Hill, the energy was really high. I was in good spirits, even though I was hurting. Yeah.
Take us about this section, Forest Hill to the
Yeah.
River, Ricky. Come on, talk about
Yeah.
it.
And then when I got in there, I was in great energy, and I left there in great energy. And when I left there, I was running, and I was running well. So my hip pain had kind of like dissipated for a while, and I ran the next 10K pretty well. But then all of a sudden, that hip pain came back because there was a little bit more climbing, because there's still like 900 meters of climbing to do in that, even though it's a runnable section. And that's all douche grade, and that douche grade was grinding that hip down. It was just making it so uncomfortable. So I, even though I was still moving forward, it was slow, and the kilometers were just slowly ticking by. And I knew that I was eating into the time there and then, because again, even though I feel cool and I feel like I'm wet and all that, I'm cooking. I'm cooking from the inside out, like, and it's just slowing me down. The hip is slowing me down, and that I lost a lot of time over that. Let's say that maybe that 15K to 20K, before I met you at the river, and that's where another pacer probably would have came in and been good. I've thought about this a bit. Look, you think about things after it. But at the same time, if I had somebody pushing me too hard there, maybe I would have cooked myself completely. Like, so you never know. Like, in my mind, I think I met you exactly when I needed to meet you, where I needed that kick in the teeth. I needed that little bit of a push. And I got exactly that when I met you.
Yeah, I whenever I've been talking to others about that, I thought maybe you would have benefited from a pacer from Forest Hill. But no, it's a good point because I don't think we could have went any faster in
No.
the 40Ks or whatever that we did together to the finish. So I picked you up at the river. You were in a bit of pain. We got you a couple of painkillers. We
Mm.
crossed the river. And side note on the river, I was expecting it to be absolutely Baltic, like glacial water cold. It wasn't Baltic. It
No,
wasn't
no.
warm either. It was just like crossing a river.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, yeah,
mildly refreshing.
yeah. Like if it was colder, I would have been happier. Like it wasn't. It was cold it was cold enough to get you wet, but not actually cool you down. Like you would have. I would have preferred if it was ice cold, but it wasn't.
So we crossed the river and then we had a 2 mile climb up to Greengate. Uh, Tell us, I mean, one of the questions that came in on Instagram was, so Aaron didn't get dropped. Tell us more. So
No,
over to you.
yeah, and like I'm kicking the table there, but like that climb, like that when I was, like, say, pre-planning the race, I would have said to myself, right, I'm going to get there, I'm going to cross the river with you, and we're going to just hike that because it's a horrible climb. That's a really horrible climb, and it's 2 miles, and there's an aid station at the top. And I was thinking, there's no way I'll be running that in the race. But because I had eaten into a bit of my time there, you start running up that first climb. And like, I think I said, fuck yarn 3 or 4 times to myself. But we got up that climb in jig time. We were up that in no time. I was like, wow, there's the aid station already. Like, so I was like, okay, let's keep doing this. Let's keep doing this. And there was, so when we got to that aid station, like again, it was very good. Like it was managed really well. You managed it really well. As in, when we got to every aid station, we made sure we did what we had to do. We fueled up, we got our hydration, and we got wet, and we got ice, and then it was get to the next one. And what I really needed then was I really needed my quads cooled down. Like my quads were cooking. So when my quads were getting warm, I was slowing down. But if I could keep my quads cold, then I could run, and I could run well, like, because we were still moving at a decent clip, like, and we were managing to pass people. So, like, in terms of you getting dropped, no, you definitely didn't get dropped, and you definitely were pulling me along for, I'd say, the next, I don't know if that was 35K, you were pulling me along for a good 30K at that anyway.
Yeah, I remember on that climb up the Green Gate hearing you grunting a couple of times, and I wasn't sure if that was the hip or the injury or whether it was, oh, maybe he's working too hard here.
All of
Uh,
the above.
So moving on into that section, so we got up that climb, and whenever I was coming into an aid station, I would go in before you, and they would always be like, "What do you need?" They were
Mm,
they were waiting on you, and I said the same things for everything. I was like, "How far to the next aid station? How many minutes since the last runner was here? He needs ice, and he needs water in his legs. He needs ice in his bandana and water in his
mm,
legs." And then they just sat around doing that. Some of the aid stations were way more efficient than others in doing it. Like everyone was unique, although they all had the same stuff. Um, and that worked well, I thought, for the most part. And you were coming in there maybe going, the next aid station's 5 miles, 5.5 miles, 4 miles. Those are some of the numbers that I remember. So I was
yeah,
like, this is class. 2 bottles of Rocktain, one in the belt, one in the hand, and just like run steady. And I
yeah,
remember like we got up this climb, and in the next section, um, we there was a bit of a gap yo-yoing between us, and it was hard to like figure out. I was finding it hard to figure out the pacing because I was still seeing where you were strong, where you weren't so strong. And I'd said to you, I stopped and I said something to the effect of like, I want to get this out and say it because this is what I'm thinking, and I want you to know what's on my mind. And I was like, your first master. Your Jeff Browning is coming. He was 15 minutes back at Forest Hill, and we know he's not going to slow down. We
mm,
need to run everything that's runnable, and if there's anything that we need to hike, they probably have to hike it too.
yeah,
And see, from that moment, we just locked in. We were like a train. Either you were in front or I was in front, and we were moving so well from our our thoughts were aligned on what was happening.
Yeah, yeah. And like, and there was like the great thing about it is we were passing people as well, because after the river, I knew that Adam Peterman wasn't that far ahead, and by the time we got to the top of Green Gate there, we were closing in on him all the time. So like that's a huge boost to go past a fellow Hoka athlete, Adam Peterman, previous winner of this race. Like nothing builds up your confidence than passing people out. Like, and then when you're passing somebody like him out, that's like, all right, man, this is great. Like, so we moved by him, and then all of a sudden we see more people, and we passed, I think, six, maybe seven other runners on that section all the way to the finish, and every time you pass somebody, and it's not like you're sprinting after them, it's just you're naturally just passing them because you're naturally moving more efficiently, more better. And that's just giving you confidence all the time, And like, look, there was I had wrecked some of that section, and I was saying to you, oh, there's a prick of a hill coming up here, and it's real douche grade, and there's no way we'd run it. We ran it. We ran it that day. I didn't run that in training, and we ran it that day because we were just moving at a pace that was efficient, and could you get you up all that douche grade stuff. Then the head torches came out, and the
Yeah.
head torches again. That was more kind of like, I don't know, more fun as well. Like it was just cool to be running with you on the Western States course with our head torches on. There was something really special about that.
It's like whenever you get the head torches out and you're running in the dead of night, it's something that you really only ever do during a race,
Mm.
during an ultra, probably long into an ultra. So, like as I said to you, and I hadn't really thought about it until we were doing it, like I DNF'd Ultra Trail Australia, and I got to experience being in an ultra again,
Yeah.
finishing in an ultra, and that realization started to come to me as I was running through the night with the head torch, and like felt a lot of gratitude for being able to like experience that, and it was cool us just trucking away. And one now you mentioned about the head torch, we were coming down this trail. It was net descent, and like you experienced the bear, I experienced the skunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So up ahead on the trail, I shouted back to you. I says, "There's a skunk! There's a skunk in front of me!" And there was this little skunk. And I mean, if you think about how it looked like a squirrel the size of a dog. Right? It was kind of like a squirrel the size of a Jack Russell, and it was like going down the trail. And we were coming behind it, and it wouldn't go. It like didn't know left or right what to go, so it just kept going straight. And I stopped and said, "Look, we can't get any closer to this skunk. Like or I think the term is it'll skunk you.
Yeah.
And in a couple of days, I'm getting on a plane. That smell doesn't wash off. Uh, like, and we stopped and it dived off the side of the trail. And I thought that was pretty cool. And afterwards, we were talking about, you were like, oh, what tattoo will I get? What tattoo will I get?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, mate, I'm getting the skunk. I'm getting the skunk tattooed, and that's gonna
And
be my memorial for Western States 2025.
you get the skunk and I'll get the bear. I'm definitely getting the bear. Yeah.
It's a
But
deal.
But like that's the thing too. Like we're racing, right? We are racing, and I'm trying to stay ahead of Jeff Browning. For anyone who doesn't know Jeff Browning, Jeff Browning has won more 100-mile races than I've had hot dinners. Like he is the man when it comes to running 100-mile races. He's a legend in the sport. And yeah, it's a race, and I want to get there as fast as I can. But I mean, at the same time, that was one of the coolest things I ever got to do. And I could feel the energy of you, that you were so excited and so happy to be there with me. And like I got the energy of you as well. And I think that's why we ran so well together, because we were just in that moment doing something that we might never ever get to do again on a trail that is like historically special. I thought that was so cool.
And like whenever we passed Adam Peterman, I saw him up ahead and I stopped and said to you, so they got round the corner because you know the crack when you're passing somebody. It doesn't matter if it's at the front or whatever, a race is a race. And I held back and I said, "It's Peterman. It's Peterman." And we didn't know that he was the lead Hoka male
Mm,
at this point. Like those facts came after the race, but we kind of just regrouped and we didn't say anything. And this was the same thing with no matter who we passed, because we passed other elite runners. Like we
Aaron
passed Aaron Clark
Clark,
later
yeah,
on in the race, who was paced by Jen Lichter, who won the 46K Broken Arrow and the Beer Mile, and then she's paced in Western States. What a week she had!
yeah.
But every time we just cruised, kept it steady, and after we passed, we just made sure that we gapped. And you mentioned about that douche grade climb after one of the aid stations. Like we come into an aid station, and in the space of probably a kilometer, we passed three
Mm,
people, which was
mm.
six runners because of their pacers, and we hit that douche grade climb, and we just like we pity patty feet up the hill the whole way and made our gap. And like I was burning a few matches doing that too, but in a nice way, like
Yeah,
that nice moderate where you're just grinding it out.
but it's like out of sight, out of mind, right? It's like that's the little things you have to do. You have to just you have to get that gap and get out of sight. And the minute you're out of sight, that person's not coming back. You know, they don't care where you are now because they can't see you. You don't exist. Let them go. I don't care. I just want to finish. And but that momentum is carrying us forward to maybe, you never know, there might be somebody else. And because it was dark, every now and again we could see two head torches, and we'd say there's two more people up ahead, and
Yeah.
that's just little things to just keep you driving on. Yeah.
Yeah, we started to feed off the positivity of catching people, of hunting rather than being hunted. And like with respect to Jeff Browning, he was 15 minutes behind you at Forest Hill ish. And we found out after at the
Mm.
top of the climb after the river crossing, it was down to 4 minutes. But by the end of the race, what do we have? What did we
I
bring
think
it out to? Like
15 or
19?
16, maybe,
I
yeah,
think
maybe it was
I
that.
think it was,
I had it
yeah.
like 16 minutes, but it could have been more. It could have been more. Yeah.
But we didn't know that. Every time I saw a head torch in the distance behind us, I was like, "Is Browning coming for us? Is he closing?" But we were doing all that we could. Look, let's start to wrap it up. We're getting close to the end. We got to the last aid station, and I thought there was like 7Ks to go from the last aid station,
Yeah.
and oh, was I wrong? So we come into the aid station and I asked the question, how far to the next one? How far ahead is the next person? And they're like, oh, well, it's only like it's just over a mile. So it was maybe like
No.
2K or something like that. And I'm like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
I was like, I was so pumped. I did not know it was so close. And Chrissy had met us and she did an Instagram live. It's on both of our profiles
Yeah.
and also had the 360 camera with her. So she filmed it all. And then there was another one person from the live stream running with a cam as well. And oh my God, Ricky, like I know I would have had a few little walk breaks if there was no cameras around on
Mm.
that hill because it was steep and it was relentless. I think in that first kilometer after the aid station,
Three of them.
yeah, but the net climb in that first K from the aid station was 80 meters
Mm.
and it was just constant. And the first kicker was steep and we got over it. And then you're like, oh, there's another one. And then we ended up saying, like, is it like this the whole way? My perception was that it was a downhill finish after a climb. So talk us from the last aid station at Ropey Point.
Yeah, because like you had those three horrible climbs. Like they were all on road, right? We were after coming off the trail and they were all on road. But they were steep. They were really steep. And like it's a good job that whatever Chrissy was filming us on, right, it wasn't picking up what I was saying. Because I was saying to you, this is an awful fucking finish to to the race. And like I was cursing it because I was like, another climb and then another one. I was like, oh my God, come on, there can't be another climb. And then it was one more. But my God, then it just sort of like leveled out, bit of a flat bit down, and then I could see the lights of the field. I could see the lights of the field, and Me and you, like I know there was like an image of us fist giving each other a fist pump just before we got into the pitch, but we had like two or three of them on the way in there, you know, like we were super happy, super excited. We were patting each other on the back, we were fist pumping each other. That was a special moment, you know what I mean? It was like, that's it, it's done, man. I've done it, you know, and I'm on the track. I'm on this track, like this famous track that I've watched 3 million YouTube videos about and watched live streams about it a couple of years ago, and I'm like, I'm on the track now, you know, and it's a feeling I'll never forget, you know.
Yeah, what an incredible finish. And let's just wrap it up with that. Like you finished first Masters, which is over 40, like all age groups over 40. You finished obviously first in the 40 to 49 age group as well. You were the top place in Hoka male, which is not something that I'm hearing you highlight, uh, and 17th overall. And like, how does that feel?
Yeah, look, again, like I'm really, really happy, and don't ever think I'm not. Don't ever think I'm not proud. Don't ever think that
But
I'm
there's a but coming.
not.
There's a
Yeah,
but
but
coming.
there's always a but because I expect other things of myself. You know, like I'm so happy that because I had no clue that I was first masters, right? Because to me that was irrelevant, right? That was irrelevant. You know me, I don't really care about age groups. I didn't care that I was the 40 to 49-year-old winner. I didn't care. I cared about a couple of things. I cared about what my time was and what my position was. I did say I wanted to be in the top 20 male, right? I got 17, so I'm very happy about that. But there's little things that I'd love if I was a little bit quicker. You know, I'd love if I didn't have granite peaks in my legs and I was able to run a little bit faster because I really believe that I could probably take an hour off that time. But I don't ever want to be that guy that's not grateful and not like I understand that I ran a really good race. It's 100 miles. I stayed positive all the way through it, as positive as I could, you know, and I'm super proud of how I did. But of course, there's a but. If there has to be buts for me to improve as an athlete, there has to be buts. There has to be mistakes that I think I can fix. Otherwise, I won't fix myself as an athlete. You know, you'll never get better thinking you're the best. You always have to be chasing what I could have done, how much faster can I get, how much better can I get, what can I do to be as good as these guys at the top? Because I truly believe that I can be. So there's always a but.
I like if you look at the times and think about maybe the time that you lost out on the course, on the if Saturday's race had a went perfectly, like I think you could have been more like 11th or 12th if
Mm,
I think about the time, because although we had swallowed up and passed that group of runners that brought you well inside the top 20, if you had been like 30 to 40 minutes quicker, you were in the mix for like another 4 or 5 positions,
yeah,
which would have put you in the mix with people like Stringbean,
yeah,
Joe McConaughey. And like whenever you look at the I Run Far analysis of post race, and they had this string of people they interviewed out that pre-race but were outside of the top 10. It was all people finishing 11th to 20th, and the omission from there was you.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
In 17th. So that that's the group. That was your potential on the day would have been way closer to the top 10.
yeah,
So I thought that was interesting because that's the best. Like that was the best people competing in that race. Okay, Walmsley wasn't there. Doesn't matter. But like if you think about the depth of that field,
yeah,
you know your place in that field
yeah,
now. And it was
yeah,
better than
yeah.
17th, but 17th was still awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and like that's it. Like there, if you even think about some of the athletes that I genuinely beat in that race, like are unbelievable runners, you know, that just didn't have it on the day, and they got cooked or they went too hard or they just didn't get it right on the day. And like there was men and women in that, like women that are absolute animals. Like I beat Erin Clark, I beat Heather Jackson, I beat some of the top female runners like Riley Brady, people like that, you know, and these are names that are like that me and you talk about every week about how good they are, how amazing they are, you know. So don't for a second think that I'm not proud. Of course I'm proud of what I did, but I still truly believe that I can do better, you know, and I think that's like for me that's a really good way of looking at it. It's a really positive way of looking at it that I'm 42 and in my head I'm thinking, yeah, but I can do better, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't and don't ever think that I'm not been positive or I'm not been grateful of like being able to do what I can do. I am. I'm super grateful, but I also what I enjoy about this sport is what I can get out of myself. You know, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah. And I think we're at a point now that take the world champs out of the equation in September. Ricky Wedden, you need to double down on the 100-mile
Mm,
distance. This
mm.
is your distance to take. You are you're gonna be the Irish Ludo Pomeroy. Like you have several years ahead of you, um, doing really well in this sport. So I think it's class that you had this validation and yardstick of where you are on the global scene because we got an indication of that at TDS last year as well. And you like that's the thing. Every runner can identify that if you're still getting better, then you can still strive forward, and you're still getting better. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's look, that has me I like most people, I don't know, most people that do would run 100 miles would probably go home and say, "Oh, I'm never doing that again," or "It'll be a long time before I do that again." I am absolutely chomping at the bit, like only that I'm on a promise to Trina to not run this week. I'd be out running, like you know. So like, come next week, I'm ready to go. Like you know, I want to get back training, get fit for the world champs, and see what I can do with the world champs because that's what I love. I love competing. I love training. I love racing. I love this sport, you know, best job I ever had.
Best job you ever had, absolutely. And the pacing, the end of that race was the best job I ever had too.
Yeah.
So I think we've tackled all of the questions, bar a couple, which I think we've answered in the rounds anyway. So let's just wrap the show up. Uh, in true winning form, I was second in the fantasy league, absolutely leaving Josh for dust at this stage. He has no chance of coming back at me. Uh, Harley Blue won, and Sam was a photographer actually at the Dartmoor race.
Yeah.
He was third in the Trail Talk League for Western States.
Nice.
This this weekend we also have UTMB Valderan in the Pyrenees. Thunderstorms are waiting for you guys, so take your mandatory kit and expect to use it. Sam K from the community is running the miler in his, just casually knocking out a miler each month or 100K or whatever. The man must have like a bank of UTMB stones at this point. Like how many? He's done
Yeah.
like 5 races this year, starting with like the Arc of Attrition or something. Um, all big races.
He's tough, man. He's seriously tough. Like he's got some recovery on him. I'll give him that.
Yeah, true. And then just last note is we'll be dropping some interviews relating to Western States and stuff in our own Trail Talk style over the next week or two. It was just a great time to be there. So next week we're going to skip the live. We're going to give ourselves a break for a week. That's why it was important to get this out this week
Yeah.
because people needed to hear about the experience and the bear. And then, like, you know how it's great to break things down into what's next and what's next and what's next. So if we skip next week's live, then we potentially only have two more lives in separate hemispheres, separate countries, before we're back doing it together in
Yeah.
Chamonix.
Yeah. It's wild.
That'll be soon. That'll be amazing. Can't wait.
Mm. Yeah, same. Same. Wild. Absolutely wild.
So on that note, hope everyone enjoys their runs. Catch up I'll give you a minute. Catch up on this on Instagram, on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube. Hit the discounts in the link in bio. Check out Tantrums, the best packs in the world. Everybody wants one. Closing comments from you, Ricky.
For me, it's like the support that I got over the weekend, over the last few weeks leading up to the race, the comments, the crack, the banter, everything from everybody that's on Trail Talk right now, from everyone on Instagram, from everyone on all the socials that we do. You're absolute legends. I can't thank you enough. It's huge and it goes a long, long way. And it's one of the reasons a man is willing to dig so deep, because I've got that support. You know what I mean? You've got that support. And that's honestly, that's one of the driving forces behind any runner, is the support of the people behind him.
Yeah, and I was sharing with you the comments from the live stream that were happening and all of the support. And Trail Talk is nothing without the community. It's
Yeah.
community first. That's what it's about. It was great to meet some of those people in Palisades and every time that we do a meetup. So, yeah, I echo what you're saying. It's
Mm.
about the community. And on that note, it's time for more coffee. Have a good weekend, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.
Peace.